So this is Breakdown. You say he's paranoid? You're being watched by the lamp over there. What? And the camera. Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here, and we've got a special treat for you this time around. We've got one of the latest of the new Legacy figures to be released. This is Breakdown. Breakdown is actually being released during the change in the Legacy line. It's now called the Legacy Evolution line. But Hasbro decided that they would release Breakdown under the regular Legacy logo, so that way more of the purist fans would be appreciative that all of their boxes still matched. Me personally, I don't see where the real trouble would be with it, but then again, I'm not super picky. But at any rate, it is good to finally have all of the Stunticons. This has been a chore of unbelievable proportions to get all of the figures. But to talk more about Breakdown himself, we'll bring in his Generation 1 counterpart. That way, those of you who are new to the Transformer line can see what he looked like back in 1986. Breakdown is the scout of the Stunticons, so his function is to basically scout ahead of the Stunticons so that he can report back to them what he's finding. However, the problem with Breakdown is that he is extremely paranoid. Breakdown believes that everyone and everything is watching him. To the point that he's got it in his head that inanimate objects like street lamps and crossing signs are watching him. Now, of course, since Motormaster, his commander, is a major bully, naturally Motormaster plays off on that, often pointing at the different things that many of the Autobots may be using as cover, in the hopes that maybe Breakdown might hit one of them. At any rate, let's get the old one out of the way here. And we'll take a look here at Breakdown's weapons and accessories. Now, strangely, he, unlike his brethren, does not come with two guns. He only has one. He has one gun here, and it's pretty basic for a gun. So as you can see, it's primarily molded in black plastic, and it's got a white tab here on the end of it, and a white handle. And then, of course, he's got his other accessory, which is the spoiler for his car mode. I mean, I know a lot of you that were old G1 fans, you obviously know what kind of car he becomes. For those of you who aren't as familiar, well, you'll find out in a moment, but it should be pretty obvious. So you can kind of use this as like a boomerang or a shield or something. But since it also has a couple of posts on the bottom, it can connect to the hole on the one side of the gun, because you see it's got a circular hole here, and it's got a rectangular hole here. This one does have a purpose, and we'll show you that later in the video, but you can combine the two together, and then he can hold it as a fancy weapon of sorts. Even though, as I've said in numerous videos, how stupid it is that they're holding their guns by the barrel to turn it into a melee weapon. No, gun is built for the barrel to be held and it being used as a melee weapon. That is just stupid. Yeah, it's a trend I'd like to see Hasbro stop encouraging. That is stupid. It doesn't work that doesn't work. It doesn't work in the real world, and it shouldn't work with the Transformers. Alright, at any rate, let's take a look now at Breakdown's articulation, and he has about what you would expect from the other Stunticons as well. His head can be turned from side to side. It is not on a ball joint, so it will not look up and down any. His arm can be raised out about so far, and it does rotate at the shoulder all the way, but you do have to alter its position so it clears the car kibble on his back. You can bend his arm at the elbow 90 degrees, and he does have a swivel at the bicep, so he has G.I. Joe battle grip. You can twist him at his hips, so he has some dance moves going for him. You can spread his legs apart into a full splits. He does have a thigh cut, which does work pretty good. You can raise his leg at the hip 90 degrees, and you can bend his leg at the knee 90 degrees. So, all in all, his articulation is pretty standard. Okay, to transform Breakdown into his car mode, it's actually pretty simple. It's almost the same as Wild Rider, really. Starters, we're going to take his chest and we fold it down along with his head. Because we're going to fold his head backward so it goes into his chest. And then you'll fold the chest plate back up to put it all away. I'm going to come here to his arms, and we're going to straighten the arms totally out. Get his arms totally straight and along the side. Then we'll come here to the back. We're going to raise the car front up a little bit so that we can work these side pieces back in. And then we just work everything on down to form the front of the car. And of course we can also push the windscreen in. And just like with Wild Rider, if you buy Breakdown as a loose figure, keep an eye on this windscreen. Breakdown and Wild Rider both have very thin windscreens. They're made out of very thin plastic, so they will break easily if you're not careful. Then we come back down here. We're going to rotate his waist all the way around. Then we'll come back here to his feet. I'm going to fold the feet up onto these blue pieces here. And then we'll open them up so they go out to the side. We'll connect his legs together. And then we will fold them up at the knees. Stretch the sides out a little bit so they clear the car body. Lock it into place. And then we fold the blue pieces underneath the car. Whoops, we forgot one thing in the earlier steps. This is my fault. I'm rushing it a little for some weird reason. We gotta fold his hands inside. Silly me for forgetting that. That should have been the first thing we did. Alrighty. I guess the caffeine hasn't kicked in yet, folks. Normally, I'd probably blame Larry for this, but I know too many of you are big fans of Larry, so we won't blame him. We'll be nice. It's my fault. And then once we get that in, the feet should also connect to a spot right underneath the chest plate. So that helps lock them into place. And then we've got the car mode set up. But of course, to complete the look of the car, we've got to attach the spoiler. Or in my case, just let it slide and fall on the floor. Alright, get that in there. And now we have the completed car mode, which, as many of you have already figured, he becomes something of a stylized Lamborghini Countach, which was exactly the kind of car he was in the Generation 1 form. And of course, in the G1, they went with more of a tannish color, whereas this time around, they have went with white. Which, you know, it doesn't look too bad. It still looks pretty good. Although it sort of brings to mind the opening bit out of Cannonball Run 2, with two girls in it driving a white Lamborghini that had water-based paint. So when they got a construction site that had some hoses going, they hosed the car down and it changed to red. Red looked better on the car anyway. And of course we got an homage to the sticker from the G1 car. So they've painted a red front on here. As you can see, they also moved the Decepticon symbol to be dead center, instead of being kind of down at an angle on the original, so that's kind of nice. The only real major downside is there's no spot to put the gun to make it in an attack mode, but he does have a way to store the gun. So underneath here, as you can see, he does have a gap right here under the hood of the car that's in a rectangle, which just so happens to line up with the rectangle on the opposite side of the gun. So you just press that in there. And I guess in a way he does have a bit of an attack mode, because the gun does barely peek out underneath the front bumper. Unfortunately, with it being dead center in there like that, it's also kind of useless. Since, I mean, let's face it, if he's shooting at anything from that low, the only thing he's going to hit is basically another car's tires. So he's going to have to bob and weave to hit anything. The G1 version was a little bit better, since it at least had this turret gun that you could plug into the back. That at least had some use. No. Anyway, we get down to my thoughts. And I like the improvements that have been done to Breakdown. It's still a nice looking toy. The robot mode does do some good job at resembling the original. And of course, the car is still a nice car. I mean, let's face it, many of us who grew up in that time period, we always did enjoy the sight of a Lamborghini like this. Pity many of us didn't live in an area where a Lamborghini was commonly seen. If I got any real gripes, it's again the same thing like I have with Wild Rider, this windshield being made of thin plastic. You know that's going to get broken very, very easily. And unfortunately, that's something that'll carry over as well with Menasor, which you guys will see here at the end of the month. You'll see Menasor. And you'll see what I mean on that. And of course, I also don't like the weapon. I don't like the bonus weapon. I think Breakdown would have been better off having a pair of guns and a better way to show them off than to give him one gun and then trying to convince us the spoiler is a weapon. It really doesn't cut it, and when you mount it to be like an axe weapon or something, it just looks stupid. So, all in all, that's where Breakdown really loses it, but it's still a nice update. The white paint job is somewhat better looking than the tan from the Generation 1 era. So, I'll give it a small pass. At any rate, that's my review of the Legacy version of Breakdown. I hope you all enjoyed it. And please do remember that if you like the content that we feature here on this channel, please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.